the universal design learning is a framework that I'm completely sure that I will never achieve in my design experiences, but at least it helps me to reflect, to think about my students when I design learning experiences, at least understand who are the people that are in front of us, and I try to apply the principles as much as I can. Okay. This is a framework that comes from CAST, that is a nonprofit education research and development organization in the States. And I start with the definition because it's the summary of everything. The Universal Design for Learning is an educational framework. Okay, so it's designed for education, based on research in the learning science that guides the development of inclusive, and this is a key word that we will talk today, flexible and accessible methods. We will think also about what is accessibility, also materials and environments, and also important why to use this educational framework to anticipate the learning variability, to try to minimize the barrier, and also to build and help the learner to build their agency. Okay. In summary, and it was a shift for me, instead of asking if the learner is ready for the lesson, we should start asking ourselves if the lesson is ready for the learner. Okay. And I know that this is not easy because we have a quite diverse um, students in our classrooms, but at least we need to understand what does it mean inclusivity, what does it mean the learning variability, which are the barriers that we can anticipate and see in our classrooms. How can we do the material accessible, and how can we develop this learning agency? In terms of inclusive, this is one of the foundational concepts of the UDL. Inclusive means that each and every student has access to all aspects of the learning experience and has agency as a learner. Okay, and here I try to also to include some examples for each of these concepts. It's important to think about this. We also need to think about the learning variability, and this is the norm, and the context is also important, and maybe we need to anticipate these learning designs. We say that the learning variability is the norm because we have, as Carlos mentioned at the beginning, we have a diverse learning in our classroom. No, we are also an example of this. No, this meeting today, people that have different origins, with personal background, personal stories, with some physical differences, with different social economical level, with different social environment where they are, where they come, and it's quite. And this is something that at least is normal here in Spain. In our classroom, we have this kind of diversity, and if we want to design for everybody, at least we need to understand uh, how our brain works. Okay, what does it mean, and how can we design for our students? Why is important for our students to understand which is the main goal of our learning experiences and what they need to do. Okay, and we need to plan about this. These principles that come from the CAS, at the end, in a summary, we need to think how to engage our students. Okay, how can we give them different or multiple forms of representation in our materials, also in terms of different tools, and how can support also them in terms how they can express themselves, how can they explain what they learn, how can they do some research when they are doing some research. So these three principles that are connected with how our brain works, it's quite important to at least to understand how they work, because then we can anticipate the possible barriers that we have. Okay, for this we have these UDL guidelines. Okay, this is the summary, but I really recommend, and I include the link in this slide, to go deeper in these guidelines, because they have some different examples, tools, methodologies, books. I mean, they have everything there. What else? In terms of learning variability, the identity also includes this variability. Okay, I explained at the beginning, no? And when we design to engage these students, we need to think about their interests, because we cannot adapt this curriculum for everything. If we know which are the interests, which are the identity of our students, then we can adapt this curriculum and connect the personal interests of our students with the goal of the project, of the activity itself. The context is also important, okay? And the emotion is part of this context. If we know how our students arrived to the classroom today, maybe they had a bad day. Also, it's not the same if we do the classroom, do the activity in the classroom, that if we go to a maker space or blah, blah, or we are doing this activity in the, I don't know, in a small town in the mountains. I mean, think about the context is important, and how affect this to the emotion of our learners is also quite interesting. What else? Which are the barriers that we can identify? Some of them are quite obvious, like physical barriers, but some others are not quite obvious. And it's important to think about, okay, which is the environment, how are our education materials designed? Okay, which is the methodology that we are following? Is our methodology for all of them? How are we going to do the assessment? And today we will talk about this also. And I like this because the barriers can be found in many places, but not in the people itself. Okay, and this is also achieved at least how we understand how we design these learning activities. Um, Also, this is quite simple to understand. No, when we talk about equality, we give the same for all our students, but we already know that this is not we this is not fair. Also, we need to try to we achieve, or we move to the equity concept. Know that, okay, if you need two, we are going to give you two. If you need one, we are going to give you one. But the UDL, the position of the UDL is, okay, let's gonna understand how is designed this activity, and let's try to change it so everybody can access and can do it. Okay, and as you can see in that sense, in this example, the best solution is to change the fence of this picture. Okay, so this is the main concept, and this is connected with the accessibility. And accessibility here means that each and every student has access to the goals and methods and materials and environments. And here I think that we are super lucky, because the maker spaces are places where that is easy to design for the kids, and for trying to understand the different barriers that they can have and design for them. And we have also trying to think about inclusive technologies that we can use in our classroom. Okay, what does it mean? Accessible educational materials depends of the diversity of our students, which are the technologies. And I think that here now with the AI, we have many opportunities to do more accessible our materials and our lessons plans. What else? Another goal of the UDL is develop the learner agency. Okay, and it happens and it grows when the students make decisions. And make decision means that also how they can be engaged with the learning, which kind of representation of the content they understand. Sometimes, if we design something that we believe that this student can understand, but probably because they have, I don't know, any barrier, this student doesn't understand, and then they cannot develop this agency because they don't understand. So something that as easy as this one, um, is something that if we understand how our brain, how is our student, we can start like designing and developing for them, and asking ourselves, and also the student can ask herself, how will I engage with the learning? Okay, how can we design to engage our learners? Which representation of the content will I use? Okay, if we give multiple representation of content, they can choose then. And how will I act and express my learning? Also give some different options so they can express themselves. Sometimes a prototype is the best way. Sometimes it's a presentation. Sometimes maybe it could be a podcast. I mean, give as many options as possible so the learner can develop this agency. What else? Again, everything it's in the principles. If you go deeper to these principles, you will understand how to apply, or at least because it's quite difficult sometimes because we don't have all the resources, because sometimes we are alone in the classroom, but at least to start thinking about this is quite important. And what I wanted to finish is with something with a maker practice that for me is the best inclusive learning practice, that is make and work with biomaterials. And I really like because is you can design these learning experiences under the maker mindset. Okay, but you can go deep, you can give some different options, and you can design the experience for all of them. And we tested in many contexts in the classroom, but also in after school program with quite diverse group of students. And this is a recommendation. There's also a link with all the process that we follow and how we apply these UDL principles in this link that is the final thesis of one of our students from Ines, and that where you can see all the process that we follow and how we implement this UDL.